today we got to play Star Wars Outer Rim. So we're going to go on an exploration throughout the Star Wars universe. But before we get started, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and that notification bell because board games are amazing and we want to make Randy not so sad.
They're out of this world.
You have been waiting to say that. All right, guys, before we get into it, Randy, can you tell us a little bit more about Star Wars?
I can. This was a 2019 release. It has a Board Game Geek rating currently of 7.7 and a rank of 206. So it's in the top 500 games. 1 to 4 player game, 120 to 180 minute average length. Age is 14 and up. Designed by one of my favorites, Corey Konieczka, designer of Battlestar. I love that. And also Tony Fanchi. Artists, there's a ton of them. This is, there's a lot of art borrowed from the Star Wars, different books and different things. So there's 49 artists listed.
We won't
go through them all.
But great art, guys.
Yeah. Published by Fantasy Flight Games. This is pretty steep price, MSRP of $74.99.
But that's probably a lot to do with the IP, right?
Well, the IP and Fantasy Flight Games are always a bit pricey.
Yeah.
There's a lot of material in it, but nothing. This is not compared to a lot of other Fantasy Flight games. This one doesn't have as much as a lot of them, which goes into a lot of the theme of my review on this. The Card House has this for $59.39. Miniature Market has it for $59.99. So it looks like Card House is slightly cheaper. There's an expansion that was released in 2022, which was desperately needed. Called Unfinished Business, which seems like the most appropriate title for this game. The MSRP for that was $44.99. Card House had it for $35.59, and Miniature Market has it for $35.99. So again, pretty much the same price. Card House slightly cheaper. So
okay, all right. So let's get into the quality of components. So we do have cardboard credits. That's essentially the money in the system. We have standees. I will say their standees are really nice.
Yeah, Fantasy Flight always loves standees, and they do a nice job. They do have linen finish on them.
Yeah, and then you do have inlaid player boards. Then you also have these wonderful center board. All of these things have linen finish. Your ships are just card, or more of a heavy card stock. No linen finish or anything else like that. But that's
all
fine.
The cards do have a linen finish, though.
Yeah.
And I will say the playmat, we've been using it for a lot of things. We finally used it for its appropriate purpose. But yeah, this does not come with the game.
Yeah. So we bought this separately, but it looks beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
So overall, for quality of components, I think everything is well done. Is there anything outstanding, though? Not really. I'm going to give this a 7 because we do have the inlaid boards. We have the nice standees. But there's nothing that really shouts great to me.
Yeah, this is a typical Fantasy Flight game. If you've played any Fantasy Flight, it has the same quality. They all have, their cardboard, their cards all have linen finish. They're all nice. I'll give it a 7.5 because of their consistency. There's nothing outstanding. The dice are nice and they do look marbled. I do like that. And, but yeah, the cards do have a nice feel to them. So that's, I think the only thing that's just kind of disappointing is the player mats. They're not the player mats, but the ship mats, because they aren't linen finished. They kind of stand out.
Yeah. All right, so now let's move on to the theme. So you are in the Star Wars universe, and you're going to play one of the captains of your ships, and you are trying to complete different jobs, different missions, different bounties. You can be for the Rebels, or you can be for the Imperials, or you can even be for some of the Syndicate, as well as I think some other more.
Well, it's basically you could be a bounty hunter. You could take your direction any way you want to go. You can be as heroic or as Imperial or.
I was just about making sure no one hated me.
I was just about collecting bounties and executing people.
So I had a balancing act. I went down in one fraction, I'd push it up and then go back down. Do this bouncing thing. All right. Overall, though, for theme, I think the artwork is there. It definitely feels Star Wars. You have the ships. You're trying to navigate through alliances and allegiances, trying to pick up jobs that you may be helpful, gear, mods, and all that stuff. it's there. It definitely feels Star Wars to me.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I'm pretty good with an 8.
Yeah, I mean, Board Game Geek has this listed as one of the top 50 thematic games, and I'm right there with it. I think it's probably a 9 for me. I think it captures the essence of Star Wars. It's got the story, the cards that suck you in. I just wish there was more of them, which we'll get to.
Yeah, see, and here's my thing, and this may be me, and this may be my preference. I play this, and all I want to do is play Firefly.
Well, there's a definite correlation between the gameplay of this and Firefly. But as far as theme, I mean, I'm much more of a Star Wars fan than I am of a Firefly
I'm more
fan.
Firefly than Star Wars. So I think there is a little bit of caveat, though. But to be honest, though, it gives you that same type of feeling, that space, that adventure, that exploration, the bounty hunter, the jobs, all of that's there. So I completely understand your reading, and I absolutely agree. I just the whole time was like, I could be playing Firefly. Because I love Firefly. Anyway, all right. So now let's move on to the actual rule book.
So there's 2 books in the box. There's the Learn to Play rulebook, which is 16 pages long, and it does a really good job of teaching you the game. It's got nice pictures showing what all the components are. It's got the layout and setup for the first game and telling you how to play it, but then afterwards you can randomize the pieces. It's got steps you through all the different actions you can take very well. Gives you examples that are really good. It's one of the better rulebooks I've seen especially out of Fantasy Flight. Not that Fantasy Flight's rulebooks are ever that bad, but this is one of their best, I think, because it's only 16 pages. A lot of the Fantasy Flight ones stuck you in. It's 30, 40 pages. This one is pretty short. And then there's a very in-depth rules reference. It's actually longer than the rule book. It's 20 pages. It's got an index on the back.
But honestly,
we never used it. Yeah. We didn't need it.
But honestly, though, that's something that's absolutely great, because I think about sometimes, like, to have all that in one space, it would probably be overwhelming. But the fact they did, here's the basic, and then if you have questions, go over here.
Yeah.
I think, honestly, that's a great way to do it, because it gets people going,
right?
And then as you find questions, and you can go.
And then on top of that, they have a cheat card that tells you exactly what you need to have. It's got all the actions, it's got the ways to win the game and score points, and what you do with skill tests. It's all there.
Yeah, I love them.
This, I'm gonna give it a 10. I don't think there's anything to take off on it.
You really like this?
Well, I mean, it's concise. It's to the point. It gets you through. Explains the game perfectly. And you've got a cheat sheet on top of that.
I will say these are awesome. So, okay, I'm down with you, 100%. So let's talk about gameplay. So basically, you'll end up choosing a character. The starter ship has 2 sides, so you get to decide which ship that you want. And then you're going to start the game. So you're going to, based on your character, you're going to have a numbered card that is listed on your character that you will get to choose. I think you said there was 3 cards per player. So
there was for yours. I don't know if all of them are that way.
So basically you get a little bit of difference, even though you play with the same player, which I think is absolutely great. In this case, I start out with, at this location. So that's where I've got to go. It's the Ord Mantell, and I'm actually on the wrong one. Ord Mantell. It's that one. Here. Okay. All right. So that's where I start. And I do basically have my first job, so I kind of know where I want to head, at least to get me going. So I have, during the planning step, which is the first step of your phase, you get to move up your ship based on the movement. So in my case, I get 6 movement. Or I can gain $2,000. Maybe you're a little bit short of money that you need.
Yeah. At the start of the game, you'll get money based upon turn order. So you'll have 4,000 or 2,000 increments up from there based on whether you're first, second, third.
Because once someone meets the ending condition, it automatically ends. So they do that up front to give you a little, to account for the player order. All right. Or you can recover all damage. So if you've been in a couple of fights, you can essentially heal and go that route. All right, so in this case, I have to get somewhere, so I'm going to end up moving. I can end up moving 6, so I can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm in the middle of the space, but no matter what, so my action, I can deliver cargo, but I'm not at a place. I'm not at a planet, so I'm not going to be able to do that. However, I am going to be able to do my encounter phase, which is I can find a patrol ship. There isn't any patrol ships at my location. I can resolve an encounter card or resolve a token, contact code token. Again, I'm in the middle of the space. There's no contact token, but there is a space token. So I'm going to take this. So there's no patrol. So there's a patrol and no patrol side. I have no patrol, and guess what? I have a secret, okay? So I'm going to keep this hidden because only I am supposed to know what my objective is with this card. And so, okay, cool. All right, so I'm going to have this for later. This card does not actually take any of my slots because it is a secret. Secrets don't take slots. Now, I finished my encounter phase. Now it's ready.
Yeah, so speaking of slots, you have two boards. You have a character board and you have your ship board. Your ship has cargo hold and it's got a modification area and a place for crew. So you can accumulate different cards, which are represented on the board here, as well as characters, which are found in this event deck that can happen. And then on your board, your player board, you've got gear slots, and you have job and bounty locations for taking on missions. Now, I'm starting the game with one mission, which is a bounty, because I'm a bounty hunter, makes sense. And I'm trying to find this guy, Ponda Baba. And he is a white token. There's white, green, and yellow, so I need to look for white tokens. That's going to be my goal. Now, Boba Fett's kind of cool because I have the ability to, as a free action, once per turn, look at one of the tokens at a location I'm at and see without having to take that as my encounter. So I can look at it before I go and attack it or whatever. So at the moment, I wanted to build up, though. So I'm going to take 2,000 money and just stay where I'm at because I want to build up for my thing. So I would have already started the game as second player. I would have 6,000. So now I have 8,000 money. So if I can have 8,000, please.
No. There you go.
All right. So I had 6 to start. I got 2 for rest or not moving, staying here. And then I have the cards. I can go to the market. You can take all the actions that are available to you at one time. So at this location, I can choose to look at any of the market cards and choose to take it, but I have to pay the cost. There's a cost in the upper corner. Very tiny, but it's in the upper corner on the cards. So the missions are generally free. Upgrades for your ship or buying a new ship cost you a lot of money sometimes. And sometimes jobs are free. Sometimes jobs cost you money. So I'm going to take, let's see, this is a weapon. I need weapons. So it's $4,000. So I'll pay $4,000. And I got me a vibro knife. So during ground combat, which would be my person, I can turn one of my eye die rolls into a black attack roll. If I have stealth or strength, I gain one additional die. So I need to get me some strength because my stats are just stealth and tactics. Oh, I have stealth. Okay, so stealth, that's perfect for me. I didn't realize stealth was one of them. So actually, I automatically get an extra die from that too. So that's a really good one for me. All right, so now I've done that. I can also deliver cargo and bounties. Well, I'm not at the location. I don't have the person I need to do that, so that's not going to work. And I can trade cards with another player if they're at that location or nobody's with me. So now I have to do an encounter. So first of all, I do have my free action. I'm going to go ahead and look at one of these tokens and see what it is. Oh, it's Bib Fortuna. It doesn't do me any good. So I would normally not say that because I wouldn't want to share it with my opponents, but I was just letting you guys know it was Bib Fortuna. So instead, I'm going to explore this area. So I'm going to take a card from Mon Calamari. And, oh, I got a secret too. Man, lots of secrets today.
Ooh.
So I'm not going to tell her, but my secret says if I'm on an Imperial planet, I can gain the cargo that's listed on this card. So I'm not on an Imperial planet, I'm on a Rebel planet, which is a bad place for Boba Fett to be, honestly. But in this case, I don't have a bad affiliation with, you start the game positive with the Hutts as Boba Fett and neutral with everybody else, which is kind of odd.
Where I start out with positive imperialism and then neutral for everybody else.
So that's my turn.
All right. So we covered all the actions.
Except for like combat, which is...
Yeah, so that's it. So I've decided that I don't particularly... I'm going to go... I don't really have a bounty, but say if we did. So Barshik has a 3 ship attack, right? And I only have 2 ship attack, but I'm facing him. All right, Randy is going to roll 3 dice for the opposing force. I'm going to do mine. Oh, I've got 2 hits.
So I have to roll now. And I got 3 hits because I got a critical hit and 1 regular. So in this case, the battle, I would win the battle because I got more hits than her. She would still take 2 hits. The character card doesn't take any hits. You have to beat it in number of wounds. But as a player, you actually take the wounds. So you get 3 wound tokens.
Eek, eek.
Which is why you need to have the option of healing from time to time. And this was a ship battle.
Yes.
So it actually goes on your ship. In this case, it would have caused you to have destroyed your ship. So your character would end up laying down. You would have lost your secret. And you would have to start your next turn by healing. So
that's why I wouldn't have went into battle with only. I forgot I only had 2.
Yeah, so that's why you want to build up early on. You want to build up your ship and your player, because if you don't want to be in a situation where you're combating. Now, you would have to have that card in your possession. You wouldn't be
right. I was just
there.
Yeah. All right, and then so let's talk about checks real quick. So a checks is when so for example, so say if I did take my turn and I end up now here it says I have to test my piloting, and if I pass, I complete the job. If not, I suffer damage. Now, here's the thing. My special character allows me to choose any skill. So for this case, I'm going to do piloting. So that means I act like I have piloting. So I'm going to roll 2 dice.
You always roll 2 for skill check, unless you have a card that says otherwise.
Now, here's the thing, though. So I rolled a blank, which is still blank, and an I. So I's only are considered successful if you have double skill in that. So I may have a card that has pilot, or I may have one that, but I had already had to have said that at the beginning. I did not. So I did not get any successes. So I will suffer a damage. Now, next turn, I can roll for that encounter again. Okay, and so I did have a blast with a dark center. Okay, so those only count as successes if I have a skill in it. Now, if you don't have a skill in it, you can still win, but you have to have the explosion with the non-filled in circle, okay? You only need 1 success out of your dice to succeed, so just kind of keep that in mind. I thought that the encounters, although you failed a couple of times, they weren't horrible, because sometimes I know in games it's like, there's no way I'm going to win. That was not the case for this. And then, so that's skill checks. I think that covers all the different aspects. Overall, I actually really enjoyed this. It does feel like Firefly if you've played Firefly, except a lot smaller board. And it is I think it's a little easier. And I think there's not as much content as there was for Firefly.
And I think that's the big thing is the lack of content. What really bothered me when we played this, every time I've played it, the numbers in the cards go up from 1 to 23 and then jumps to 40. It looked like they sold it as an incomplete game from the very beginning. And it felt incomplete because all of your piles only have 10 cards in them. You know, you're going to run into the same cards over and over and over with every play. And it felt like it needed more to it. Not to mention, just looking at the semicircle, it looks like it should be completed, which it's not yet. Even with the expansion, there's no more additional space. But the cards were just lacking. And this came out in 2019, mind you. The expansion that we got only came out in 2022. So there were 3 years between there where there was no additional content. And it feels like it needed more from the very beginning. And, you know, it's not something I play a lot because I just feel like it's going to just be repetitive because the same cards are going to keep coming up. So, you know, I think it needs more content, you know, and more rapid delivery of expansions. But, you know, the fact that it took 3 years to get the add-on, we still haven't even played it because we haven't been playing this because it's just the same feeling we had. Yeah. So, you know, it's one of those things, I think it needed more content. It's what's there is great, I think. It's just needing more to it.
I think the biggest complaint that I had, and I think Andrew would agree, was that there wasn't enough there. Especially because some cards you remove once you completed that thing, which totally makes sense.
I mean, if you disintegrate somebody, he's probably not going to come back into play.
I mean, fair enough, right? So, that it makes sense. but then you have one less card to so, and everyone's doing that, and so it's like, okay, then it really is those last couple points are just doing one of the repeatable quests, essentially.
And we should point out, you're playing fate points. A lot of the missions and such give you fame. Fame, yeah. And you basically play to 10 fame. The standard game, you can make it 8 if you want to play a short game, 12 if you want to play a long game. But that's what your goal is, to accomplish tasks to gain fame. Money is nice too, because it helps buy equipment and other jobs that help get you that fame. But really, fame is all that matters. Whoever gets it first automatically ends the game. But yeah, I think that the concept is great. I think the way the play feels is tight. Yes, it is limiting as far as the space. I don't mind that, because I think that's the whole point of it, is they want you to run into the different ships and have to have interactions with them, which if you have open space like Firefly, you have a lot fewer interactions and such, until you start adding in all the expansions with that. Same problem. So
I just play with all the expansions.
That's right. You're used to playing with all the add-ons, but when you've got the base Firefly out, it feels pretty open, and it's a little boring.
But I will say, if you try to put all those boards out, we would have to put it on the pool table.
Yeah,
that thing's humongous.
But this one's geared around having encounters. I mean, every turn you're going to have an encounter. Problem is you're going to have the same encounters over and over and over. If you're going to have a lot of encounters in the game, you should have a lot of encounter cards.
Yeah.
So I think it needs more content, and I think once we add the expansion, it's going to help. It's going to need more expansions, I think.
So let's talk about scores then. What are you thinking for this?
I'm probably good with, as far as I think it's. I'm going to give it 7.5. I think it would be an 8 if it had more content as the base game. Once I add the expansion, I may bump it up, but I think with the base game, I'm at 7.5.
I think I'm with you. I'm a little bit lower. I think maybe a 7. I think with more content, I think it will help. I think a little bit bigger of a board. It's just more content, just in general. I think so, and I think there needs to be a little bit. I don't want to say theme, because this game is great on theme, but I feel like a long-term goal for my character would be really nice, because my personal goal was complete 2 jobs, gain 1 fame, and flip this card. That was so easy. Mm-hmm. Like, I did that so early on.
Well, that's to build your stats. I mean, like mine, it gives you an additional power when you flip it, but you also get some fame, too.
Yeah, but I wish the other side had like a life goal that you got fame at the end or something that could push you. I don't know. I just feel like there should be an overall character goal, and I think that would have been nice, beyond just the little easy thing that they had on the front to flip over your card.
Well, I did like it also is the ships, when you get past the starter ship, actually have goals too, which is kind of cool.
That is kind of nice. Yeah, that is kind of nice.
So I like
if that. I had remembered mine, I would have won. All right. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us. We had an absolute blast, and hopefully you'll come hang out with us again. We'll catch you later.
Bye.
Bye.